You think you understand how Darth Maul became Sidious's apprentice, but when you really slow down and look at the details of how Sidious took him, it becomes clear that this wasn't a simple recruitment. It was a carefully constructed severing of a child from everything he once was. You'll see how deliberate every step of this process was, and why Maul's transformation began long before he ever left Dathomir. A child born into power. Maul was born in 54 BBY on Dathomir, the son of Mother Talzin, and even his origins are described as mysterious, which already places his birth in a larger web of darkside significance. As a Dathomirian Zabrak male, he was one of the Nightbrothers, and he had two blood brothers, Feral and Savage Opress, meaning he wasn't an isolated child by circumstance, but part of a structured, deeply ritualistic culture. Before his first birthday, Talzin gave the Zabrak infants their first tattoos. This shows that identity and purpose were being shaped almost immediately. These markings weren't decorative, they were part of belonging, part of expectation, and yet, despite growing up with that structure, Maul later claimed that he had once had a real name, but had long since forgotten it. That tells you that whatever he was before Sidious, that version of him was erased so thoroughly that even his own memory could not retrieve it. As a child living in the deep caves of Dathomir, Maul struggled with an intense inner anger. That anger wasn't implanted by Sidious, it was already present, simmering beneath the surface. According to legend, he grew up with one of his brothers in a house in the Nightbrother village, and often had to care for a younger, weaker sibling because Talzin was frequently away with the Nightsisters. During those years, he felt a strong connection to the forests and the natural world around him, a connection tied to his force sensitivity. So, you have this force-sensitive child who feels deeply, carries an anger he doesn't fully understand, and who already lives in a world shaped by dark side traditions. And at the same time, something far more dangerous is forming in the background. The alliance that changed everything. While Maul was still a child, Mother Talzin formed an alliance with Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith. The two exchanged knowledge, Sith darkside arcana on one side, Nightsister magics on the other, and this wasn't a casual partnership. This was an exchange between two immensely powerful practitioners of the dark side. But here's where the situation becomes personal. Whenever Sidious visited, Maul hid in his room. He feared him. He sensed something unsettling about the growing connection between his mother and this outsider. Even as a child, he recognised that this relationship carried weight. Later, Talzin would say that Sidious had promised to make her his right hand, but instead of honouring that promise, he stole what was most dear to her, her own flesh and blood. She described it not as an apprenticeship arrangement, but as betrayal, and crucially, Sidious had already taken notice of Maul's anger. That internal struggle, that intensity had caught his attention. This is the point where you realise Maul was not an afterthought in Sidious's plans. He was observed, evaluated and chosen. This separation. Around 40 BBY, Sidious took Maul from Dathomir to become his apprentice. But the way this happened is far more disturbing than a simple master selecting a student. According to Talzin, Sidious betrayed her outright and stole her son. A more detailed legend expands on this and explains that Sidious ordered Talzin to give Maul up to a keeper, threatening to withdraw his promise of apprenticeship if she refused. Faced with that ultimatum, she reluctantly agreed, and Maul overheard this conversation from behind his door. Imagine what that means in practical terms. A child hearing his future being negotiated and hearing that he has been given away. He runs into the forest in anger, processing something he cannot fully understand. When he returns the next morning, a Nightbrother takes him and throws him into a pit, and he is not allowed to say goodbye to his mother. There is no explanation offered to him, no reassurance. Conditioning through suffering. Over the following months, Maul endured relentless domestic abuse that was orchestrated by Sidious as a test. He lived with his Nightbrother keeper and the Keeper's 2 sons, who beat him so severely that every few days he could barely stand. They starved him, feeding him only scraps after they had eaten. At first, Maul's love for his mother remained intact, but as the abuse continued without relief, that love gradually twisted into resentment. He began to interpret his position as abandonment. In his mind, Talzin had allowed all of this to happen, and that shift is exactly what Sidious intended. Maul's hatred began to manifest through the dark side. He practiced using it whenever he could, not under formal instruction, but as a means of survival and emotional release. Over time, something changed in him. The 2 brothers who tormented him realised that their provocations no longer drew the same reaction. He stopped responding in fear or visible anger. He hardened. Rumours then began circulating through the Nightbrother village that a powerful figure would soon arrive for the selection, a ritual in which a warrior apprentice would be chosen. All the Nightbrothers prepared for it, knowing it could change their fate, including Maul. When the day of the selection arrived, Maul's keeper refused to allow him to participate, effectively attempting to keep him in the position of submission he had been forced into for months. But this time, Maul did not accept confinement. He used the dark side to break down his locked door and make his way to the arena. And when he entered, he saw the visitor. It was Sidious, the same figure he once feared as a child, the same presence who had stood beside his mother. In a sudden and decisive act, Maul used the Force to choke the 2 brothers who had abused him, and then the Keeper, doing so publicly in front of both Sidious and Talzin. On the surface, it appears as though Maul is claiming power in that moment, asserting himself and winning his freedom. But in reality, this was the outcome Sidious had engineered. The suffering had stripped away attachment. The resentment had redirected loyalty. The public display proved that Maul's anger was now focused and weaponized. Sidious was beyond pleased and declared Maul the winner and his new apprentice, despite Talzin's fury and dismay. And then he left Dathomir with him. What Sidious really took. When Sidious took Maul, he did not simply remove a child from Dathomir. He ensured that by the time Maul left, there was nothing emotionally anchoring him to it. The abuse created isolation. The isolation created resentment. The resentment fueled the dark side. Talzin swore to reclaim her stolen son and vowed revenge against Sidious, which makes it clear that this moment was not just the beginning of Maul's Sith training, but the ignition point of a long and deeply personal conflict between 2 dark side powers. It is now clear that Maul was not taken because he happened to be powerful. He was taken because Sidious saw the anger within him, then methodically shaped the circumstances that would turn that anger into loyalty. By the time Maul stood in that arena, choking the people who had abused him for months, the decision had already been made. Sidious didn't simply choose Maul, he prepared him to choose the path that Sidious had laid out. Let me know in the comments. Did you know that Maul was an abused child long before becoming a Sith? If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe and let's uncover the galaxy's greatest secrets together. Thanks for watching.